gathered here this afternoon to commemorate the Charge of Beersheba on the 31st of October 1917. So 100 years ago, members of the 4th Australian Light Horse Brigade participated in what is now regarded as the last great successful cavalry charge. Some people dispute that. The charge itself is an heroic charge of the 4th Light Horse Brigade. They were waving their bayonets overhead in dying light. They raced across 6 kilometres of exposed ground in Palestine, surprising the well-entrenched Turks. It was a decisive blow in which the British capture of the strategic stronghold of Beersheba. The story of this remarkable military victory has largely slipped through the cracks of history. But today we are commemorating that famous charge and our chargers, local members from our district who were in that charge. There was a quote by a famous historian: "It was a glorious triumph of arms for Australian forces, a romantic moment of dash of bravery. It stood out in our tragedy of World War I, yet it barely registers in Australia's national consciousness. But today there are light horsemen reenacting in Palestine, or will be on the 31st of October. Today we are honoured to have here Beryl Wilkinson Bliss, John Wilkinson and Margaret Downs, who are descendants of the late 1423 Private Charles Wilkinson. We have also Jeanette. Jeanette is the daughter of 1398 Angus Gillies, A Squadron, 4th Light Horse. Plus we have descendants of the Williams and Brain families. Thank you for attending today. Right, he's happy. So I thank you on behalf of myself, the members of the community, to the family members who have made their way here today to the unveiling. And the unveiling will be done, I suppose, it's not a really good word, but the unveiling of the memorial will be, the family will be out there unveiling the memorial, which is fantastic. Bit of a story about Charles and Angus. They both participated in the charge, and Beryl told me the story of Charlie and Angus were in the charge. Angus's horse was shot out from underneath him. Charlie went back, picked him up and rode him to Beersheba. It's just hard to imagine the Turks there with their German type machine guns, their rifles, the artillery, and the bombardment by the planes that were coming overhead. Certainly an act of bravery. Unfortunately, he wasn't awarded a bravery award, but in our eyes here, they were all brave men. So during the ceremony, Beryl, John, Margaret, Jeanette and family members of the Brain and Williams family will unveil the memorial, which is under wraps over there at the moment. Now, an interesting, I did a bit of research on our obelisk, our war memorial in Terang, and it's certainly very interesting indeed, especially not being a local, but being a bit of a historian who likes to cross the T's and dot the I's. The memorial was unveiled in 1923 from funds donated from Mr. Black and the McKinnons. The obelisk was unveiled by Harry Chevelle, who was the commander of the 4th Light Horse Brigade. Now, on the main memorial plaque, it does have the Great War of 1914-1918, but it also depicts the charge of Beersheba, which is impressed on the plaque. So that got me chasing, what should we do, who was in the charge, and with the help of so many, Dave McGuinness, Tom Ritchies, and so many other people, we've ended up here today. So there's certainly a strong connection to the Light Horse of the district, and that's, as I say, that's why we are commemorating today. Now the commemoration ceremony will be preceded by a concert on the green. Thank you to the performers, the entertainers, for kicking off at 1 o'clock, and they will continue after the ceremony. There also is a barbecue which has kindly been donated by the Terang Rotary Club, and Ian at the coffee stand, great coffee, so please patronise there after the ceremony. So now there is a program, and we will get through the program. 45 minutes is the max, so we do have a guest speaker, which I'm really thankful Richard Reed, our member, has come along today with his father-in-law, Jeff. I do appreciate both of them coming today. So now I'd like to actually introduce Richard. Please come to the podium. Richard tells 1,000 words.
Thank you, Steve. To the descendants of the fourth life horse that have joined us today, welcome, and to all other members of the Terang community, welcome on this sunny Saturday afternoon. The Terang Express, Tuesday, April 23rd, 1918, reported the following from the famed World War I correspondent Keith Murdoch. All soldiers appreciate the great deeds of the light horse in Palestine. Extraordinary dilatoriness and ineptitude in the official arrangements for chronicling them have made them less widely known to their own people than the deeds of our infantry. But the Pukka soldier and the skilled campaigner knows that no better cavalry have ever existed. The great ride of the Australians and the New Zealanders to Beersheba outdid Sheridan's long dashes in the American Civil War and French's rounding up work in South Africa. I feel privileged standing here before you today on the 100th anniversary of yet another milestone in a war that was at a time going to be our last great war. I'm privileged because, like other people of my age and younger, we have not seen or experienced conflicts of such scale. We have not had to experience our community sending hundreds of young men off to war. My generation and younger no longer know a world where to be so far away meant no communication, long delayed news and a wait for information on loved ones could only have been described as excruciating and at times never ending. I'm also privileged because my family were too young for this war and they were too old for the next. And sadly, from my father's point of view, he often said he failed his medical tests for Vietnam. Until I was married, I had not experienced war in my family at all. The need to remember and commemorate was not something I fully understood. My wife's family, like many others here today, have experienced war. My father-in-law, who has accompanied me today, as a child lived through World War II. I have, over the past 22 years, grown in my understanding of how even after a century, the legacy of war can still have its effects and memories that are reflected in surviving family, friends, and whole communities. I'm privileged also because in the past 12 months I've had the good fortune to visit as an official guest two great sites of Australian involvement in this great war. This year, on the eve of the 100th anniversary of Passchendaele Offensive, I was honoured to lay a wreath for the men that gave their lives from the Polworth district at the Menin Gate last post ceremony. A moving ceremony open for all to attend and has been expressed every night at 8 p.m. since November 1929. As you stand there in 2017, it is impossible to imagine the death, sacrifice and destruction that have befallen this now beautifully restored and elegant Belgian town. However, it was my visit to Beersheba in the Israeli summer of last year that raised my awareness of another great event in Australian military history. Keith Murdoch said fortuitously in the Terang Express, "I do not think that when the war is over, the Australian mounted men will have any less noble part in their country's history than the patient foot sloggers." It may have taken nearly 100 years, but we know that as the 100-year commemorations of World War I approach their finale, the brave and historic achievements of the Third Battle of Gaza, and in particular the charge of the 4th Light Horse Brigade, not only helped in turning the tide of the Turkish war, but the results have had a long and lasting effect on global politics that endures around the world today. I have not had the privilege of visiting that other great site associated with war against the Turks of Gallipoli. I have heard and read about its rockiness and its harsh environment. Visiting it today, at least, I've got to say it has a sea view. Beersheba is harsh. On the edge of the Negev desert, it is landlocked, hot, dry and barren. For those who have ever been to Kuba Pedy, imagine riding a horse in that environment in full kit from Woomera. The ride itself across the country that seems so pointless fighting over, let alone wanting to seize it, it is amazing to comprehend. The Turks had occupied and controlled it for hundreds of years, and so for our Australian boys, and one from this beautiful green country here in Terang, it combines to make a far more impressive feat. For the young Australians who ventured to the Holy Land, I can only imagine the mystic and the magic that must have been foremost in their minds. With a knowledge of that area, predominantly based on their religious instructions, it must have seemed strange to be riding towards towns and villages like Jerusalem and Bethlehem, that they had known and heard of from the pulpit on a Sunday. As Australians that were used to vast distances, it must have been strange to have had so many places of great history, all in such close proximity. The size of Israel today is only a little larger than the electorate of Polworth. And so as a visitor in 2017, on modern roads and highways, a tourist is transported across these famous areas, across these battlefields in a matter of minutes, not in days and weeks. Today, Beersheba is a modern, thriving city in the desert. It is a centre of learning, a home to many agricultural kibbutzes, and most surprisingly, the home to the world's most amount of Grand Masters of chess, perhaps symbolising strangely its strategic position. As with other areas of world conflict, the Australian War Graves Commission have a moving and beautifully kept cemetery that is there in the heart of this now modern, thriving city, to remind all who visit of the Australian connection to this place. The Australian government and private benefactors have invested heavily in a memorial park at the site of the Charge, and at the time of my visit it was under construction in one of the last remaining true desert landscapes in the area. Again, we are fortunate to have local Polworth representatives riding in the reenactment that Steve spoke of earlier, of the Charge, with the local Colac City Councillor and his two sons participating in the three-day ride, starting this afternoon. He tells me it is as authentic as a modern occupational health and safety laws will allow it to be. They are indeed roughing it for 3 nights, but unlike our diggers from 100 years ago, they will have a nice modern hotel room to go to when it's all over. And so it's fitting that in a community like Terang, who has direct links still to this great battle that we gather today, I wish to thank very much your local RSL President Steve and his committee for their ongoing support and commemorative ambitions that keep this great feat in Australian military history alive and visible for future generations. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Richard. It's always a pleasure to have you here as our guest. Along with the program, I'd just like actually quickly mention, or not quickly, that we had a sudden passing of one of our members, Mr. Arch Ferguson, age 97. Very sad indeed. He was a very active member, had been since 1945. So, all I can say is rest in peace, mate. That's what I said at the ceremony the other day. But I'd also like to thank the veterans and the members, the RSL members, for their assistance. We do have him, Mr. Lem Pomeroy, who's touching 96, World War II veteran. Thanks for coming. We have our Vietnam veterans. And Len's told me many stories, but I'm certain you're going to get a lot more before that happens. God willing, it won't be for a long time. Our Vietnam veterans, Terry Bryant here, Alan Fleming from Camperdown, also Megan Hyde, our Afghanistan veteran. Andrew, unfortunately, sends his apologies. We do have another Vietnam veteran officer at the back there. We also have two more veteran continue with the program. A good friend of mine, he has been over the years, especially with research, Mr. Tom Ritchie. So I'd like Tom to come to the lectern and talking about our charges in the district. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Steve. Among the 800 horsemen charging at Beersheba on the 31st of October 1917 were 5 men that we are aware of who had a close connection to the Terang district. 4 of these men are remembered on our war memorial in the main street. 3 of them, namely Angus Gillies, Charles Wilkinson and Don Williams, all enlisted within 1 week of each other and were all part of the 11th Reinforcements of the 4th Light Horse Regiment, and also all part of the A Squadron. They all served together throughout the war and all returned home. Don Williams was unfortunately wounded at Beersheba, and on his recovery was wounded a second time while fighting in the Jordan Valley. Both Angus Gillies and Charles Wilkinson were unscathed, but all did suffer various illnesses throughout their campaign. Today we are honoured to have with us family members of both Angus and Charles, namely Jeanette Mullins, daughter of Angus Gillies, and Beryl Wilkinson Bliss, John Wilkinson and Margaret Down, members of Charles Wilkinson's family. We also have an apology from Mrs. Brenda Giles, the daughter of John Williams, who was unable to attend today, but sends her best wishes. The fourth soldier on our memorial who took part at Beersheba was Sam Brain. Sam was born at Clora, but moved with his family to New South Wales just prior to the war, and subsequently enlisted in Liverpool, New South Wales. Sam served at Gallipoli first, then was transferred to the 12th Light Horse Regiment and took part in the charge. He also returned at war's end. Sam's family today is represented by Mrs. Barbara Taylor and Mrs. Mary Green. And finally, just yesterday, it came to our attention of a fifth soldier who took part in the charge and is not listed on our local war memorial. He was Lieutenant Benjamin Meredith, a member of the 4th Light Horse Regiment, born at Killam Beach, but had moved to the Colac district just prior to the war. Ben paid the ultimate sacrifice and was one of the 31 light horsemen killed in the charge of Beersheba. As time didn't permit, no relative of him could be contacted in time to attend today. That famous charge of Beersheba may have occurred 100 years ago, but attendance of so many people and relatives here today has made for a wonderful commemoration. And although 100 years may have passed, these men will never be forgotten. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Tom. Tom also assisted myself, I've got to watch my grammar, so Maggie keeps saying, in the Lone Pine ceremony back in 2015. And I thank Tom. Phone call I received many weeks ago saying we had 4 charges. And I actually designed the interpreter design, I had no charges. So thank you for the family. So thank you for that. Okay, I'd like to introduce Brett Brumby. Brett is our local artist who has created this mural, and incredible. He's also created other paintings with inside our RSL. I thank Brett for that, and of course his partner Kat. Brett, would you like to come to the podium? Brett's 2 grandfathers served in World War I. As you can see, he's just finished painting it.
Thanks. As Steve said, I had 2 grandfathers that served in World War I, and I suppose because of this, I feel a bit of a personal connection to the Terang RSL. A few months ago, Steve asked me if I would do another painting to commemorate the Charge of Beersheba. In a moment of weakness, I said okay. Then he told me how big he wanted it, so always check the size first. In the past few weeks, I've taken a month off work to do this. We have some very understanding and proud employers back in Western Australia, so I'd like to thank them. I'd like to thank my mate Troy for letting me use his big shed when the weather turned to crap. And I'd like to thank my mum for allowing me to take over the backyard and the shed, and I hope that her father would have been proud of what we are unveiling today. All the RACB blokes for helping me move the huge painting, Pete for helping me put it up, Steve for helping with the research and everything else. Danny does a lot for this town. Mrs. Wilkinson Bliss for the story that helped guide the painting. And last but never least, Kat. My partner Kat has been supportive and helpful, and a better partner I'll never find. Thank you. I didn't want to do a blood and guts painting. What I wanted to do was to show what our forefathers went up against. Long-range rifles, machine guns, heavy artillery, troops in trenches, and a plane that dropped bombs. We had horses and bayonets. True David and Goliath stuff. This painting is to honour their bravery and sacrifice. Cheers.
Oh, wait, no, again, I did that the other day. Yeah, it's a very fitting mural, and when you all see it, it's like our nurse. Just a bit of insight on the garden itself. Many years ago, this garden was used as a bit of a shortcut in town, looking at old tin sheds, overgrown. Today, what you see, I had a vision with the members of the committee, and with the help of Cam, the secretary and treasurer. We had the money, so I had the resources for the vision. This was designed in such a way, how you're sitting today, how I pictured it, and how it will be for our dawn services. Any other commemorative event. The tree symbolised the memorial to those in the district. The nurse overlooks the memorial garden. And where I'm standing in Anzac.
There we go. Now, dear Mum and Dad, just a quick few words to let you know of the little action we took part in. We'd been written all night, and just before dawn we caught a glimpse of this little town called Beersheba. It's set in low ground about 3 miles away, with the start of Judean Hills on the right and all the hill on the left. There's a few small buildings dotted in front of this town, and a few bodies cut across it as well. We moved on to find some shelter, so we were hidden by the eyes of the Turks. Wasn't much good though, the Germans sort of flying aircraft around. We found this little spot we dismounted, loosened the girths, settled in, and waited for our orders. In this wadi, we baked in the heat of that sun. Our horses were suffering as much as what we were, the dust, the flies, the thirst. For us blokes, at least we had a bottle of water with us. As for the horses, they're gone nearly 25 hours without it now. The day we were getting on, the battle was progressing pretty slow, slower than expected. So we're now looking at the prospect of riding another 20 hours back to our last watering point. It wasn't what we really wanted to do, not for poor horses. It was now late in the afternoon. This bloke from our unit comes cantering through. They were on these orders. Tighten kit, prepare to move. Well, mind you, this got our attention pretty quick. Jumped to our feet, tightened girths, checked our kit, jumped on. Before you know it, we're moving off. We cleared out of this little wadi, going to meet our RSM. He's throwing more orders at us. Form, squadron line extended. You know, I remember these orders. 12 months ago, we practiced them. Didn't think we'd ever see it for real. The guy gave me a quick glance, and we knew we were in for it. I was in the first line, we lined up, and watched all my mates line up along the left and to the right. A quick glance behind, we see 2 more lines of horses, a few yards apart. The old major took up position in front of us, and then he gave the signal to move off. Off we walked, then into a nice easy little shop. At this stage, on my left, come up a 12-ride horse. We just crest this little hill before us, we can see this village, this little town of Beersheba. Where the river was. It's all about water in it, and this was our objective. Our pace moved into a nice slow canter. Had trouble holding the horse, she was getting a bit excited. Took a bit of effort to hold her. The next signal the major came, the major was accompanied by a bigger bellow. Charge. So hold on, sudden surge forward, there's one with noise. There's one, and the noise is now yells and hoarse, sounds like thunder. There's also at this stage the artillery shells come from the sky. Some of our men fell, along with their horses. But it doesn't stop us, we gallop on. Passing small farm buildings, scanning the chickens as we go. But when he comes up and tries to jump it, it's too big. Crashed down to the bottom of it. Hell, it didn't break a neck. Got me through. We needed to find a spot to scramble up at steep banks to rejoin the charge. But this side now we've got bullets tipping past us. No more artillery shells. What faces now is rifles and machine gun fire. Bullets tip past as we gallop on. I can now see the muzzle flash of these from the Turkish trenches ahead of us. And with an almighty yell, we draw our bayonets, sun clinging on. Everything from here seems a bit blurred. Next thing I can remember, the horse himself had jumped in the trench before Turks. Then a few yards later, we jump in another one. I look around and I see a lot of the blokes are dismounted and actually fighting hand to hand with the Turks. Many of the Turks are surrendering quickly, others are putting up a pretty hard fight. I go on into town with some of the troop, and we pull up out in front of this important wooden building. The speed of our attack has left them rather stunned and shaken, and very confused. They showed no want to fight and surrendered in their droves. The look on the German officers' faces as stepped out of the building was priceless. Needless to say, we disarmed him and added into our growing collection of POWs, much to be discussed. By now, darkness had fallen, and at last we managed to avoid our gallant horses. Our horses. Without them, we wouldn't have succeeded. To carry us with all our kit across 3 miles of relatively open plain, gallop, out of gallop, under artillery, machine gun, and rifle fire, and not had water for 30 hours is true. To have made it through all this without a scratch is a miracle. But we did lose some good men and horses in that charge. 31 killed, 32 wounded, 170 horses lost. An incredible small number for such an action. They will all be sad at least. But now goes on. And tomorrow's another day. The loving son, Dave.
I'd ask Liam King to come to the podium, please. Liam will actually lead the family to unveil the memorial. Liam King is the Terang Secondary College, and he's also part as a member of our RSL, the youngest members.
Right, what are you trying?
I want to get everything in.
Oh.
There we go. I made him sure it got it on time.
Yeah. You've done a good job.
that you, Steve?
Sorry.
Go for it then. Try to keep on making you put your hat up through your speech. Trying to make you put your hat up through your speech. You couldn't see your face.
I wasn't looking at anyone.
I know.
Another one.
Go on, Steve, hug him.
Oh, man.
Uncross your arms. You smile for the camera, horsey? Oh, very pretty.
Bit of a collar, yeah.
I won't take too long, we might miss the Cox plate. I'd like to proceed this blessing with an ancient writing from the book of Ecclesiasticus. The writer of that Ben-Sirach was a man who wandered Palestine not 100 years ago, but 2,200 years ago. And it's a reading from the Old Testament where he reflected on people of his time and before him. It's just as suitable then as 100 years ago as it is today. Next, let us praise the illustrious, our ancestors in their successful generations. The Lord has created abundance of glory and displayed his greatness from the earliest times. Some wielded authority as kings and were renowned for their strength. Others were intelligent advisors and uttered prophet oracles. Others directed people by their advice, by their understanding of popular minds, and by the wisdom of their teaching. Others composed musical melodies and set down ballads. Some of them were left a name behind them, so that their praises are still sung, while others had left no memory and disappeared as though they had not existed. And now, as though they have been, so too with their children after them. But here is a list of generous people whose good works has not been forgotten. In their descendants they remain a rich inheritance born of them. Their descendants stand by the covenants, and thank them, so do their children's children. Their offspring will last forever. Their glory will not fade. Their bodies have been buried in peace, and the names live on for all generations. The peoples will proclaim their wisdom. The assembled will celebrate their praises. So we bow our heads and pray for God's blessing. God, we ask your blessing upon all who are gathered here this afternoon. Bless those who have died in war for peace and justice. Bless those who mourn the loss of loved ones. Bless the armed forces today throughout the world. Bless our country, Australia, with your protection and mercy. We give thanks and bless the light horses. May this wonderful surroundings here and memories, this painting and the many other memorabilia here at the RSL in Terang, give great remembrance, great respect and great honour to those of this district fighting for our country. Finally, we bless all members of the RSL present and gone before us.
We ask this prayer, this blessing through Christ our Lord.
Thank you, Father Jerry. Tradition of the RSL, I will now recite the ode. Please stand. If you can't stand.
Attention!
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning we will remember them. Lest we forget. Thank you. Please see this. When the ceremony ends, I'd just like to once again thank everybody for coming this afternoon. The support has been so incredible from all walks of the community. I could be here for 10-15 minutes, but it's just a big thank you, especially Dave and the Light Horse Troop, and of course the two gentlemen from Gippsland who travelled here for this event. I thank you both, and please make yourself known to them both. Dave just highlighted on the mural that Brett has painted, and Tom earlier said there was 5 from the district. There were 5 horses on that painting. How ironic. So with that, please make yourself known to our reenactors. Thank you for coming. Enjoy the day and enjoy the entertainment. There's so much talent in our district. Thank you very much for attending today's commemoration.
I need to do that. We went to an RSL here.
Smile. You are not.
I jump off, I take the stretcher with me, prep the person for his injury, and then the ambulance will come through and pick him up.
Oh, that's awesome. Such beautiful.
Then you've got your Billy.
No, alright. I don't want to look at your nose, I want to look at your badge.
On the banks of Commemoration, rough riders there, of course, on a truck or on a horse. They really teach you things you didn't know.